so that way those who were not able to attend are going to be with us, can pick up what we're doing since it's such a small group. Kendall, could you kind of give us a report, since I wasn't there at the FLVC, about what happened and what decisions were made and how we're going to be able to work together as we move forward?
Sure. So the group, our Access work group at FLVC actually expanded a little bit this time around. I noticed there were some new members. Tom Cavanaugh sat in on the discussions both days, and there are a few others from different schools that were very interested in this topic. So we shared the survey to everyone and explained kind of your game plan and the expectations that the BOG has for your work group, and deadlines and everything. So Josh Striegel had put together for the Access work group a really nice grid that looked at best practices around student services. And he collected a number of resources from people in his own institution, but some of the stuff had been what the Access work group members contributed to when we met in February. Was it February? Yeah, February. So what he, in turn, after our meeting last week or 2 weeks ago, he decided that what he would do is tie those best practices to specific SACS accreditation expectations or criteria, so that there's just another layer of rationale for why we were identifying some of these best practices. And the group really liked that idea, and they thought that maybe, since a lot of it was already covered in the survey that our group has put together, Josh thought he would just provide that to you for just another layer of, I know you're doing you're doing a lit review and trying to just collect empirical research on why we're making these recommendations. He thought that SACS accreditation alignment might provide you just additional reinforcement.
Oh no, that's wonderful. I definitely appreciate that, and we also have the matrix that you put together.
Uh-huh.
So was he using that information as well?
I shared that with the group as well. So, but no, he's actually just going through the SACS standards. So he's not using any of what I had created.
I think that'll be another good resource.
Mm-hmm.
As I was thinking about, and it's not part of our tactics per se. It just says that we're supposed to share our best practices, and so it didn't tell us how we were supposed to share.
Right.
So I'm thinking that maybe we build a website and that would be a wonderful resource that's sitting on that website. And then as I was thinking about how do we share these resources, I think there's different ways of looking at student support services. And so having different lenses to look at the student support services would be great. And that's a wonderful lens that could be used for institutions as they're thinking about student support.
Sure. Another thing that came out of the FLVC meeting is the discussion around the digital divide. Mm-hmm. And I mentioned to the group that you put together a white paper and that you were working on some potential possible partnerships down the line. And John Opper was a part of our group, and he sent over some documentation on some work. He sat on a task force a couple years ago when Governor Bush was in office, and they worked together to do some research on the digital divide at the time. So he just sent that over to me late last week. So I'll be happy to share that with you.
Definitely. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. And then let's see, what else? Some of it blurred because we were talking about work we want to do with FLVC that wasn't necessarily related to student services. This online preparation, first time online student preparation topic was discussed quite a bit. But I don't think that we're necessarily there yet in this work group's game plan yet. I know that you're still trying to make sure we firm up the survey, get everything there included, and then possibly talk about what's next when it comes to orientations, that kind of thing. But there was some discussion around what would need to be in an orientation, and the conversation kind of evolved from there. So
Good. Okay. Sounds like you did get some good things. Oh, great. Lynn, yeah, Lynn's here now. So hello, Lynn. Wow, that's a lot of work that was done at FLVC. So
yeah, they were very engaged.
it seems like it. So as along the digital divide issue, I know that we had hoped that the group could actively participate in an online survey, or a information gathering tool, and it did not work out for us because you didn't have the internet connection.
Right.
Um, I really am very interested in this particular topic. Number one, I think that the colleges may be often experiencing more challenges with the digital divide than some of the universities. Um, and I also believe that there are challenges that are occurring with students as if they do not have updated equipment. I know last time we talked we talked about, how we could design courses to be accessible, but after that conversation, and I was thinking about it and reflecting on that, it's not the course material per se, I believe the students run into problems with. It's the software they're using in the classes. So, for example, if you're proctoring online, the proctoring tools don't support the old browsers or the older operating systems. Neither, if you're trying to link out to content from McGraw-Hill or Pearson, students experience those problems again if if their browsers are outdated or their operating system is old. They just stop supporting that. So I think there are some barriers that we really do need to identify.
I agree.
So I don't know, is there a way that your group might be willing to do, if we sent them the link, that they would fill out barriers that they have noticed?
I think it's certainly worth trying. In the meeting, there were quite a few different surveys that all of the work groups were talking about implementing, and I believe, and Lynn, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe we're going to try to streamline pushing surveys out by sending them over to Heather, and then Heather will put them on the listserv.
Yeah, right. Going back to a meeting a few months ago, what their goal is to have a survey about once a month so that it gets to Heather, and then there would be if different people have different questions, there will be different sections of the survey that she sends out, and then so your pieces would be added in there. There's a section if the licensing people have a question or Access has a question, they'll make different sections. They can get submitted once a month and report out that way.
So, and Victoria, when we brought up the digital divide, when we reported out, that generated a lot of interest by the group at large. Sid had mentioned that at Palm Beach Day they did some kind of analysis years before. Pam was obviously very interested in this. And it also dovetailed with another conversation we were having around knowing who our online students are. And there was talk about potentially creating some kind of template around questions institutions might want to ask about their own students, so then they could identify what students' needs were from that kind of questionnaire. So maybe this will all kind of become its own one single product. Does that make sense?
It does. My thing is when you're looking at the technology, it's constantly evolving and changing.
Yeah.
And so it does, even though we may have gathered information even 2 years ago, it may no longer be applicable because they change which which operating systems they're supporting. They change, which browsers they're supporting. And I think the biggest challenge we've had in the last 2 years is the standardization of even the browser interfaces have been a little off. You could, before, they were maybe some variations, and now all of a sudden there's lots of variations. So some things work in Firefox, some things work in Internet Explorer. And
Right.
I know myself here in the last year, I've had to, even going to not, commercial websites, you're like, oh, that doesn't work. Well, let me try Mozilla,
Yep.
So and I think that's a technical skill. And I think when I'm going to have Franz present a little more about the white paper that we're putting together here in a little bit. And it's the technical skills are a really big part of what happens when we go to lower socioeconomic or English as a second language individuals. So, yeah, so knowing that is not something that they necessarily know about. So,
Right.
yeah, so I think it's part of those readiness skills for doing online. Well, thank you so much. It sounds like the group did a lot of work.
Yeah, and I'll pass on. Josh sent over another draft. I guess it was earlier or late last week. So I'll send that over to you. I'll send John Opper's notes on the digital divide and Josh's grid.
Oh, that would be wonderful.
Back accreditation alignment.
And then I'll send you, if you don't mind, the link to that. It's just it's very simple. It's a one question kind of thing that if they could add that to the survey that's going out this month, then maybe we can gather that information and add it to our white paper.
Okay.
Okay. Wonderful. All right. So, I as many of you know, the system as a whole, both college and universities have been working on rather large data collection surveys. We did the one with just about data in general, and then we literally followed that out, I think 3 weeks later, with this really big survey, a cost analysis survey. So we're just inundated right now with lots of surveys. We did get some results back from the data analysis survey. I'm going to pull this up and share it with you. If you just give me a moment. I always forget how to share.
Yeah, click on the screen there, Rafa.
Yeah. Let's just do present desktop, so that way I'm not. Okay. I'm fine with that. All right. So here, let me expand it. All right. So they did have a question added into that survey. I always worry, however, when someone uses the word not available. So I hope no one was confused when they were answering this question. And I guess the only way we can be sure is just that if they answered it, maybe that those services are not available.
Right.
Yeah. Now, the other thing about this, in my opinion, remember we were looking at, well, it's one thing to say you have the services, but when are you offering those services? So our survey did take it a step further. But notice that everyone pretty much, one institution said you couldn't register for your classes online. Everyone said you could get your course schedules, your listings. There's a handbook online. They had the orientation class. 2 institutions do not. I thought it was interesting. The virtual campus tour was not.
I cannot figure out how to interpret that.
I don't either. Can you see this? Do I need to expand it so it's a little larger font?
No, I can see it fine, but
Yeah, it's fine.
nine respondents said their virtual campus tour is not available at a distance.
I would bet you that just means that they only do on-campus tours and they don't have anything other than basic MapQuest information on their websites.
Okay, that helps.
Yeah, I'm thinking that's what it meant. I agree with. I think that's what it is. Now, notice academic advising's offered to everyone, and almost everyone felt like they were addressing accessibility. Course mentoring is not always available, but we've done a lot of work, so there's lots of library help. Not everybody has virtual tutoring, counseling, victim advocate. One said they didn't have graduate applications. You know, the graduation. Yeah, you know, this one that kind of keeps popping up could be Polytech, or it could be there's that other university with that does liberal arts.
Oh, New College?
New College, yes. I'm wondering if this is New College or Polytech. I don't know who responded.
Oh.
You see, and we don't have, it's not broken down yet into college and university, so we can't, I don't know, this is the first round of data they're giving us, so I'm sure more detailed data is coming out. They asked a lot of the same things that we did. So I haven't had time, but I thought I would take this and turn it into a positive instead of a negative. And at least it gives us a starting point. I'll post this to our wiki too, so it'll be available. Yes, I would have worked on a lot of this stuff yesterday, but as I don't know if those of you at a university know, we received another BOT request. We had 2 days to respond to. So I ended up sidetracked. So I'll share this. So what our thought was is maybe if we could take our survey and convert it over into a rough draft of a quality scorecard, maybe we could get to where we need to be by December without sending out yet another survey. So I'm going to ask Gladys to step up now. She's worked on this while I was on vacation, and I'm going to have her share with you her ideas. And again, this is just a working draft, and it's just, we can change this, talk about it, and say we want it to go this way or we don't want it to go that way. But at least we have a conversation point. So Gladys, can you step up? And which one would you like first?
One.
I took a peek at them, and I think at first glance it's really good. So thank you for getting it started for us, because it looks good.
Good, yeah. I think she did a good job. Yes. All right. So Gladys' turn.
Good morning. So as you can see, we have the streamlined one, and if you look at the survey itself, everything that you have on the scorecard is actually from the survey, except that I streamlined it to make it more user-friendly and make it also simple. And the good thing about it is, as you go ahead, as you score, it adds it up for you. So that makes it easy. But what I was having issues with, again, was in terms of the scoring wording itself. where you have 0 as deficient, 1 as developing, 2 as accomplished, and 3 as exemplary. If the team would like to change those wordings, it's fine with me. Also, deficient, even though it's 0, I was thinking deficient might mean a lot of things. So the group is something for the group to think of, because similar to what we saw earlier, if the institution has something in place, but they have not actually initiated anything, does that make it deficient? Or should we award or assign any points or whatever? So
Non-existent.
yeah. Should we say deficient or non-existent or not applicable or something? So these are things to actually think of in terms of that. So that's scorecard 1. So as you look through, try to have the survey itself available with you also, and then you can compare, and then also if there are any things you want to add or for us to take out, it's fine with me. But everything that is in scorecard 1 came out of the survey.
Share with them what you think the different categories, like what developing should be and accepting and exemplary. Because I like your idea.
Okay. Well, developing means they have it in place. So let's say, example, number 2, the institution responds to prospective student inquiries during admission process on campus. Okay, so after hours, weekend, or after hours, weekdays. So again, when you're talking about developing, if they actually respond to prospective students, regardless of when they are developing, because at least that initiative is there. Accomplished would be if someone actually has been designated, or if a section, let's just say student advising, they have somebody to carry on that task of actually responding. So for example, for us here, I have developed a list of all the 10 colleges we have with their point of contact. So if someone should contact me, I can easily say, okay, since you're looking for information about this program in College of Business, here is the point of contact. I have the name, I have the email address, and I have the phone number of that person. So in that case, they are developing even though they have not actually, accomplished it yet, because we won't know if they have accomplished that task until we start gathering data of who they have contacted and how much of contact they have. When you get to the accomplish, it's the fact that they are accomplishing all these tasks. So it's easy for me to then call my point of contact and get data from them that they are actually helping these students. When you reach exemplary, that means you are ready to actually share what you're doing with other institutions, because you have data that what you're doing, it's benefiting a lot of students, it's benefiting the university. So it becomes exemplary. Again, these are just my thoughts, so I wanted to share it. If any other team members have, other things to add or other ideas.
Hi, this is Kendall. I think you've given this a lot of thought, and it looks pretty robust. I certainly could take it and sit and think about things for a little while, and maybe bring a few ideas to the table by our next meeting, if there's another sense of urgency here.
No. Not at all. Not at all. This is a work in progress.
Okay. Yeah, I think it looks really good, though.
Thank you.
Nice work.
Yeah,
Thank
this
you.
is Lynn. I've got a question. And I like it, and I think it's laid out really well. My institution, we do not have human beings after hours or on weekends responding to emails or phone calls from prospective students. However, for the students that go through our CRM, if they inquire through our interest pages and things like that, they do fall into a communication plan and start getting communications. So I could, and I just see a little wiggle room here for the institutions. For me, I think I could easily put down either developing or accomplished.
Perfect. That's what we were thinking
what
of.
Would you prefer I put that as? Because I don't have human beings doing it after hours or on weekends. I just have an automated system responding to inquiries.
Yes, I think that will be perfect because you already have started, the initiation is there, and then what will happen is as you begin to gather more data and get more statistics as to what you have accomplished, it moves into the accomplished phase. So I think you're right about that, but again, it's up to the team to decide. We can still change the wordings, however the team feel it's appropriate, because I don't want us to be stuck on the wording if there are other wordings that can be put down. Also, the same thing, the scoring rubrics, those are just numbers. Those can be changed also.
No, I really like it. I'm just thinking of some of the people I work with and other people around the organization, and I'm reading this as a literal person saying, and that I'm not going to mark myself exemplary because I don't have true what I feel is after hours and weekends. But then if I start thinking that I have to turn this into the state,
Well, I think that
I might increase my scoring from developing or accomplished.
you're right. So I think that's a discussion as to, is it better to have live or or not? That's a good kind of question to ask. Which do the students prefer? Do they prefer to have a live person when they answer the phone, or is electronic databases enough? I'm just worried that electronic databases or electronic responses, like you said, that at least they're getting something. But how responsive is that in meeting the students' needs?
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. And that would be a good question for you to kind of follow up on as you're implementing that. Ask your students, did they feel like they got the support they needed through that system, or would they have preferred an online? I would love to know that question.
We've actually asked that. We've got a full communication plan with timings and things like that. And we actually have a call campaign that they fall into for inquiries, but it's a Monday through Friday call campaign.
Right.
During business hours. And they're honestly shocked that they even get a call. So for the most part, as long as our communications are conditional based on what they've expressed interest in. So our students are fine with it and happy with it, and the phones are just a bonus. But I really like what I see. I'm just wondering how.
See, I would think that's a great practice because it falls into a cost-effective model and being cost-effective. So I would actually put that as accomplished, and being as you're gathering data, it would move into exemplary, right?
Perfect.
Yeah, I mean, that's just me thinking out loud. I love it. We need to make sure we write that up as a model, because I don't think I've seen that as a model per se in any of the literature.
Yeah, well, it's the only way we can sustain it.
Which is a great idea. So I think, I'd love to see that written up somehow. Oh, all right.
As Kendall said, I'd be happy to provide some feedback on the individual elements of this, but we seem to be trying to capture a whole lot with singular scores. Just as one observation, all these questions asked for about rating services on campus and virtually.
Mhm.
What if on campus and virtual provision of services are vastly different? How does one respond to the question? How does one provide a ranking? What if your on campus is exemplary and your virtual is in development?
Oh no, this would only be for I think we have to think. We're thinking of distance learning students.
Yeah.
And and I've been trying to that in general, students need the same things, whether online or on campus. I mean, they need, and so I don't, I get this question all the time. Well, what is it that distance learning students need that's totally different? They need assistance about financial aid just like any other student does. Is the answers different just because they're online? The answer should be no.
Yeah, but the answer will be no. The answer will be that they're different.
But how?
Our on-campus students, if they go into advising, they're going to have a far different advising experience than would they if they try and get a hold of an advisor by phone and try and have a phone appointment. So we will say yes, we satisfy this because they can eventually, once they finally connect with an advisor, have a phone appointment, but it will not be the same experience that an on-campus person that will have.
Wow, I don't understand why not.
That's a whole policy debate. We aren't there yet. Internally, it's a different experience. They get a minimum level of support, and they can have that. They can have them walk through, but it's not going to be the same level. It won't be that same relationship dynamic in a comparable way that the on-campus students will get.
Wow, ours do Skype. We actually do Skype advising.
Yeah, ours won't go there yet.
Yeah, they actually can get Skype advising and or phone call or face to face. Yeah, they can. Yeah, well, I think the thing with it is, we have a whole advising methodology that's been put in place. So it doesn't really matter how they walk in. They should be getting that same methodology. Yeah. So, well, that's interesting that they would not give the same care to a student online. But
they would say that they would, and they would try, but it wouldn't be honestly the same.
Interesting. I don't know. Okay, let's go to
It's a sad fact. We're working on it.
Right. So let's take Robert. Maybe this other scorecard will help you address your question. So let's make sure that we have what thinking about what you are saying, and then take a look at this one.
Okay. So what I did also was to do a different one, but more detailed. Again, everything that you see here came out of the survey, but except that it followed exactly the same format of the survey. And in terms of what Robert was asking, so if you look at A, now we have pre and post enrollment services, and then you have the institution has pre, post enrollment services, and then in the scoring you have on campus, you have virtually, you have campus after hours, you have virtually after hours, you have campus weekend, and you have virtually weekend. And then in the score area itself, once you click on the drop down arrow, then you get to select, because at that point if you have on campus, you put a check mark. If you have virtually, you put another check mark. So by the time you reach the score area, if you put a check mark on all the 6, then you just select 6 from the drop down arrow, and it goes on all the way. And again, at the end, it adds up the score for you. So this is a more detailed one. but again, it's still the same, except that we add for this one, we no longer have our exemplary, accomplished, and developing wording, except just check marks. And so if you score a 6 in any area, that means at that point, if you look at the other rubric, that will be considered exemplary. Same thing for admissions. The institution responds to students' inquiries during the admissions process. So if all your check marks go through and it's 6, you are exemplary. So that's easy to understand. Same thing with financial aid. Students have access to a financial counselor, advisor, or coordinator on campus. That will be checked just 1. Virtually, that will give you 2. Campus after hours, that will give you 3. Campus virtually and after hours, that will give you 4. Campus and weekends, that will give you 5. And then virtually and weekends, that will give you 6. So if they have access to all these areas, then you get a 6. And if you look back at the other scorecard, it becomes your exemplary. So any questions about this one? This is the detailed one. And so hopefully, if any institution is able to score 276 points, they are exemplary, and we would like to put their work out, out there. And then, but also on the last page, if you take a look from our survey, that is not included in the score. It's just recorded as questions because we would like for the individuals to kind of like give a description on how their institution is retaining fully online students, or what strategies they use, for early alert notification and things like that. So those are not included in the score. So those are just something to fill in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really like this one. And the reason I like this one is I shouldn't say I like it because it'll come back and bite me. It puts more pressure on me. So if I look at this one compared to the other one, in this scorecard, the detailed scorecard on line 35, you have students are offered academic and success coaches. Mm-hmm. If I fill this out, if my institution fills this out, mm-hmm. you're going to get a lot more clarity in my answer. In the other document, it's probably going to get marked as accomplished.
Right.
Yes.
So I think this document provides more of a basis for action plans, mm-hmm. And things like that. I just think there's a little more wiggle room in the other one.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm. This one would be more painful to fill out, but this would also be a great document for SACs.
Right.
And this has much less ambiguity.
Yeah.
It's binary responses, and it's pretty straightforward. You've got to draw a line in the sand to say whether you do or don't.
Yeah. You get more honesty and where improvements can honestly be made out of this one than the other.
I like to think about the cumulative scoring, though, because I don't think all of the columns have equal weight. But I'd like to think about that.
Oh, that's an interesting observation. Yeah. We could, and that could be built in.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it gives us data, really good data. I think they're both valid. I think the one kind of gets you thinking about it. This is more specific. Mm-hmm. We weren't sure if maybe you wanted to do the specific one to help you answer the streamline one. With some of our thoughts, but there is a different philosophical approach.
Yeah, I think they're both really, really good, and I think Gladys, you did an amazing job.
Yeah,
thank you.
So I think it's really accumulation too of all the work we've been doing. But I think this helps us maybe skip the step of doing a survey, if you're okay with that. And I think it'll just help the system as a whole not to have to answer one more survey. But if you look at our tactic, it actually says we have to have these scorecards ready to go and begin gathering data. And I was a little worried about that beginning to gather data. It was, I don't know how you begin to gather data using the scorecards. So I was like, well, we really probably should just move on the scorecard. So let's take a look at these, and let's have some feedback coming back to us for next week then.
Next week.
I'm sorry.
Next
We need
meeting.
to next meeting, which I think is 2 weeks away, because we're going to be at the BOG next week. All right. Thank you guys for the feedback. We definitely appreciate it. All right. So let's move into the white paper. I'm going to ask Franz Pierre. It's been a kind of a combination effort between the two of us. But he's, I think, more up to date on what's in that paper now than I am. So I'm going to ask him to share. You should be. Go right ahead, Franz.
Good morning. My name is Franz Pierre. Basically, what we did, we look at three areas of the digital divide: access to high-speed broadband. We also look at the low socio-economic status, and also at a language barrier. And then for each area, we looked at the issue, and then try to also find solutions that are being implemented, and specifically kind of focus to Florida. When it comes to access to high-speed broadband, well, Florida is ranked number 9 in the U.S. And however, many rural areas in Florida do not have wide access. And a couple of key points when it comes to issues with access to broadband. As part of its 2015 Broadband Progress Report, the FCC voted to change the definition of broadband by raising the minimum download speed from 4 megabytes per second to 25 megabytes per second, and then the upload speed from 1 megabyte to 3. What that did is actually triple the number of households with no access to broadband. And so, as far as recently as 2016, the last report in January, the FCC found out that 34 million Americans lack access to 25 megabyte per second services. 39% of all Americans lack access to that number as well. Now, if you kind of narrow it down to schools, 41% of schools that represent like 47% of the nation's students lack that type of connectivity. And of course, they also lack the long-term goal of reaching 100 megabytes per second that the FCC plans to have in the future. A typical school has may have broadband access, but that access is being shared by a lot of users. So that means that by the time it gets to a student, there is actually no access or slow access. A third of Florida, let's drop down to Florida. A third of Florida students don't have a computer at home. An interesting fact that was also connected to the fact that people are using more their cell phone and their mobile device. And in a lot of cases, those mobile devices don't give them access to large broadband access, especially when you are accessing multimedia instruction. So that was kind of very interesting to see, like a lack of computers. People are relying more on their cell phone and tablets. 1.2 million Floridians are without access to wired connection with 25 megabytes per second, and the average speed around the state is 38. And 3 counties in Florida do not have access to 25 megabytes per second broadband: Union, Gilchrist, and Dixie. So, and then of course, when we talk about those issues, we also look at solutions. Nationally, there is the National Education Technology Plan, and there is more detail in the paper. There's also the University Corporation of Advanced Internet Development, UCADE, or Internet 2, that has worked to give access to 121 excuse me, to 121 anchors. In Florida, what Internet 2 is doing is connecting like 30 existing research and education network to be the backbone of research and access. Florida is also building the Florida Shines, which is a one-stop place where students can go get information about college and online programs. Of course, responsive mobile website for libraries are beginning to be implemented so that there's more for students to access full resources. And of course, a key example of the many examples is the partnering research organization as a Connect to Compete, which provides more access. I do have more in this area, but I will jump now to actually there are a few more key points. The Florida legislature, HB 5101 in 2014, has enacted policies for state and district planning standards and methodology and funding. The Florida Rural Broadband Alliance has been also doing work to make sure that the rural areas of Florida, and myself personally, in doing this research, I realized no wonder why when I'm driving to see my son in Pensacola, there's a whole area where it's just dead. There is no access. Of course, and as far as you know, our special needs students, communication services for the deaf intends to expand broadband adoption among people who are deaf and hard of hearing and provide them with online tools to more fully participate in the digital economy. Of course, there is more and more, but I'll now jump to the other part, which is a low social and economic status. In that area, it's really humbling to see how many people really don't have access due to, first of all, their finances and so on and so forth. The poorest, least educated still lag as far as internet access. African Americans and Hispanics have been somewhat less likely than English-speaking and Asian Americans to be internet users. 78% of blacks and 81% of Hispanic use the internet compared to 85% of whites and 95% of English-speaking Asian Americans. And one other area that kind of dropped is when it comes to income. And 1/3 of those making less than $20,000 a year do not go online at all. Another third go online but do not have internet access at home. 45% of mobile internet users go online mostly using their cell phone. And mobile devices have not been adequate replacement for all of the computer's function, although it helps people get a quick access to online and check maybe YouTube and so on and so forth. But when it comes to academic, even filling out an online application is not possible as far as just using your cell phone. And students from families with lower socioeconomic status tend to be less confident and capable in navigating the web to find credible information. Overall, it's very deplorable not only because of their status, but access, and even going to a library has made it very difficult because in one research article, for safety reasons, a lot of parents will not even let their kids go to the library after hours. Some solutions.
I want to add just a little bit to that because the research I've been doing, Franz has done some great research, but the research I was doing was looking at what does that actually mean when they do not have access. And what we're finding is that not having access means that they do not have the search abilities. They don't know how to research even what's a good college for them to go to. They're not able to use the library and write research papers because they're using a mobile device versus an actual computer. So there's a lot of issues that come into play because you do not have, and skills that you do not have because you have not had a computer in your home for ready access to develop those kinds of skills. So it actually compounds those variables.
Yes.
Yeah.
And as far as solutions, there are a number of creative solutions around the nations, and I did find some solutions that are being implemented in Florida. One solution that I found to be very creative in Conchita Valley in California, the school buses are outfitted with a Wi-Fi function so that our students can do their homework on their way to and from schools, and those buses are parked in the trailer park, so that they can have access afterwards. I think that was an excellent idea. And of course, there are other areas. And in 2015, the federal FCC started an initiative to provide like a subsidized phone subscription, but those subsidies also increase the broadband. So in one swoop, they are able to get the phone and the internet. Miami-Dade County Public School have a program called Get Connected to Global, where students and parents not only get training, and as of last year, they have lagged in 60,000 hours of training for both parents and students, and then another 30,000 students got loaners of equipment to take home, and 6,000 of them got refurbished computers. And then for a little extra cost, working with Comcast, they can get the same access that people are paying $100 and something, and they reduce the cost to something like $9.95, which is excellent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And of course, the NTIA and the Department of Agriculture's Rural Utility Services are administering nearly $7 billion Recovery Act initiative to expand access and adoption to broadband services to reach the rural areas. Of course, and there's also a lot of states that are repurposing the educational spectrum to include the teaching of technology in their curriculum as part of making those low socioeconomic students catch up to their counterpart.
I think the interesting thing to note is most of the interventions are geared to K-12 and not universities. And so as far as universities, I think the only real solution we found was loaning computers.
Loaning computers.
And checking them out or doing something along those lines.
Yes.
Wi-Fi,
yeah. We had the Wi-Fi through Clearwire or Horizon Initiative, but they do not offer enough data on those to make them useful for online.
Yes. Now, when it comes to language barrier, that's even more startling. First of all, language proficiency is one of the most powerful predictor of internet use. Of course, not by any planning, over 80% of websites are in English. But lately there have been for the past 3 years that has dropped to 30% because French and all of those languages are spread. Many ELL, English language learners, may not have access to computer or internet at home. They may not even know about those services, because for you to know about the services, you have to have the language skills to actually know that those services do exist.
Or to access them.
Or to access them. Also, there's the question of culture. I found that ELL students may be susceptible to believing information they receive electronically because they may come from a culture where little information is printed, and then written information is usually considered reliable. Whereby we are more used to electronic information, whereby in many places that they are coming from, they are used to actually having the book. the book is the key. So, also. 24% of Latinos are not online versus 14% white and 15% African American. One thing that I found very kind of peculiar is that families headed by a Latino seems to be the household that access the internet the least, and also where the skills are the least. I don't know what's causing that, but it was very interesting. And I had a discussion with Dr. Brown. Maybe we thought of the fact that many of the workers are migrant workers. Maybe that's the reason why they are not accessed as well. Now, one thing to bring it back to the classroom, roughly 7 in 10 teachers assign homework requiring broadband access at home. However, 1/3 of those students lack internet access, and of course, the students who have a language barrier will not
least likely
to have that. Let's see what else we have. And then as far as and I do have a whole lot more, but for the purpose of time, I'm kind of rushing to my finding. As far as a solution in Florida, there is the consent decree. And I was very kind of interesting to find that, because 25 years ago, as a classroom teacher, being of Haitian descent, I was part of a group that at that time I had no clue that had to do with the internet. But the consent decree is the state of Florida's framework for compliance with federal and state law and jurisprudence regarding the education of English language learners students. And under that umbrella, as I'm reading, it also provides for these students to be given equal access to the internet. Of course, as far as a solution, the research suggests that there should be implementation of instructional strategies to help ELL students build technical skills. They also propose that the library should have either visuals, like a handouts with pictures of the different steps on how to access the internet in the home language. Of course, as far as also short videos. In 2015, the FCC announced plan to upgrade the Lifeline that provides telephone access to low-income households. And it was very hard to locate specific research regarding like a solution for English language learners. And after discussion with Dr. Brown, we found out that sometimes
it's an overlap.
There all overlap between low income and English language learners. Of course, as far as nationally is the activities to support effective use of technology titled for of Every Student Succeed Act, as well as by Congress, is one of the legal tools that is being used to help ELL students get access to the internet. One other research also pointed out that there's a massive achievement gap between ELL students that's not only being caused by the language, but also by the fact that they're lacking access to information or the lack of comprehension of that information. So that's probably I'm wrapping up because I'm looking at the clock. I'm looking at Dr. Brown, but the research has been very interesting. I try to give you a snapshot. Hopefully, I can forward to you the full findings, and then we welcome your input and your findings as well. And that's what I have.
This has been an interesting journey. We're getting close to where we can start writing it up. Well, one of my thoughts is at universities and colleges is that maybe we need to have more videos on how to study, how to access our services, and then making sure we have those academic success coaches for these students, because they're one of the things we didn't mention is that they're often first time in college students.
They're often first time in college students, and also the academic system that they come from is not the same as what we have here.
Right. So it's kind of a whole lot of issues that are wrapped up into, and it was quite eye-opening for us. So, what are your thoughts on what we found out so far?
I think that is a whole lot of information that is really interesting.
It is, isn't it?
I try to spit it out in one breath. But
that is some pretty amazing information, though.
It is. It really is. It's thought-provoking, too, I think. Especially for what I think the legislators, our BOG, those people, they live in a different world and maybe don't quite understand that maybe internet access just isn't available. Yeah, to everyone. And there's actually, and not having that access is actually widening the income gap. And widening these individuals' ability to fully participate in our society, which will probably build into some of the themes as we start writing the papers.
Oh yeah! Wow.
Right, because it's literally if we don't address this, it's literally telling a whole population that they can't have higher ed, right? And so I think it's something we need to be thoughtful of as we move forward.
I think it gets muddy very quickly, and we run the danger of conflating in the digital divide both the technology gaps and the readiness gaps.
Yes, and I think that.
They happen to coincide in these in the demographic populations that we're trying to reach.
Right, and I think one of the comments was at the BOG was, why shouldn't we be able to reach this population, and why are you not reaching this population? Well, there's a really good reasons why we are not, and I think it does benefit us to maybe think about grant programs that help with reaching out and doing some work in this area. But it's pretty eye-opening and very thought-provoking. Wow. We'll pull it together so you can see it a little better, but and hopefully over the next couple of weeks we'll have a better product for you. Steering committee report. Oh, okay. Let me pull that up so you can see. I don't know that I opened it up. Give me just a moment because I don't think I've opened this up. Here we go. All right, so we were asked to put together a very simple template. Thankfully, at this meeting, I wasn't expected to have products. So what I'm doing is just giving status reports and updates on where we are. So I just said, gave the tactic, I gave the timeline goal that we're aiming for, in this case, December 2016, and I just gave a brief outline of what we were doing. So we're working on the scorecards. We've got the rough drafts. We're getting them approved. We're tactic 1.16. We're working with Florida Virtual Campus, Florida Shines, and we also have Matrix and some of those things coming together. And if I can see the work, oh gosh, now I forgot his name, from that was working on the that Kendall was talking about.
Oh, Josh Drago?
Josh, yes, Josh. Josh is, I can maybe add that. Then maybe a secure student support resources and access. We're going to be, I gave some points, just some broad points from the white paper we're developing. And then we're waiting for the report, so we don't have really a timeline action item for the last tactic yet. So I think we're on target. What I'll do is I'll present my report. They'll give me some feedback, and then I can bring it back to the committee in a couple of weeks. So, does anybody have anything else that we should be working on, or you're thinking we should work on, or ideas that we, as we move forward here?
I think I think there's a lot of progress being made, especially by your team. So I just think as we keep refining what you guys have started.
Oh, good. Okay, good. Thank you so much for acknowledging. Yes, Gladys? Yes.
Quickly, Lynn and Robert, as who were talking earlier, something was running through my head, and I wanted to share with both of you as you move forward to review the scorecard to give us more information. But I was thinking, if the second scorecard, the detailed one, if we can also, as we have 1, 2 through 6, if we can also move deficient, developing, accomplished, or exemplary on top of it, and then put wording for if you have 2 check marks, or if you don't have any check mark, that would be deficient. If you have maybe 1 to 2 check marks, that would be developing. If you have maybe 1 through 4, that would be accomplished. And if you have 4 through 6, that would be exemplary, or things like that. That might that's something to consider also. Just a thought. It was in my head, and I said, let me let it out before I forget.
No, I think it would be good to feed it into an adjective, but I think Robert brings up a very good point. We'd have to wait, the on-campus services, if they don't have them virtually, or how important is virtually after hours or weekends for certain things. So I think depending on the weights, having it result in more than just a point, but in description would be good.
Okay. Oh, that's a good idea. I'm wondering if our deficient should be not available. I'm just worried about the word deficient.
Below minimum. No one's going to like that word, whatever you call it.
Yeah, you're
I know,
right.
exactly.
Well, minimum, that's another good one. All right. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. I appreciate you giving us this little extra time out and taking your time out of the day and giving us feedback on the work we're doing here. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and close the meeting, and you guys have a wonderful day, okay?
Thank you
very much.
Right.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Did you stop recording? Oh, yeah, we need to stop. Okay.